Good morning, Year 10 Geography students. Welcome to Term 2. We've got a new topic and we're going to be talking for the next few weeks about sustainability. So sustainability is obviously a hot topic, around climate change, around, last year there's so much around Greta Thunberg and her fight to raise awareness and be an activist on issues around sustainability. Around political inaction and governments not doing as much as what people think they should to reduce carbon emissions. It is a broad topic, and so we're just going to look at it in general in this slideshow, but then we're going to look at different elements of sustainability and challenges that we face with trying to create a sustainable world. So what comes to mind when we think about sustainability? Are you thinking about, why do I have a cow in the picture? People are often saying that, the animal agriculture industry is a massive producer of carbon dioxide. And I mean, they're not just saying that for no reason. It's proven fact that it is. But meat eating is so much a part of our culture, and it's certainly not the only problem. It's not the only reason why we are facing increased carbon emissions. By the way, I should say it's Wacky Wednesday. That's why I look like an idiot. So I don't think that I just roll into work like this every day. We're going to keep moving. So a couple of definitions. Webster's Dictionary: a method of harvesting a resource so that the resource is not depleted or permanently damaged. What resource could we be talking about there? What are some of our natural resources? Okay, think about what we mine for. Think about how we use our water. Do we have an infinite amount of water on the earth, or is it something finite, which is the opposite of infinite, that there is a finishing point and that we will run out? That's not a bad way of looking at it. That's just a straight dictionary definition. It's a bit of a tongue twister. The World Commission on Environment and Development says to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, this is something that's incredibly important, because if you think about yourself and your own life, you might get through your life, especially at my age, certainly anyone, one generation older than me. If they just think about themselves, sustainability is maybe not as big a deal. But now that I have two of my own children, and I start to think about, Zara being 10 years old, how's that going to impact on her? What sort of world will she be living in by the time she's even 15, at the same age that you guys are at? Are there going to be bushfires every summer? Things like that. Okay, another simpler definition. I don't even know where I got this one from. I might have made it up myself, but the capacity for human civilization and the environment to coexist. And that's why I've got the picture of the earth and the trees in the humans' hands there. Sustainability is really about humans on one hand and the earth on the other, and them being able to go on forever without one ruining the other. So we don't want to get burnt down by bushfires, all right? But we also don't want to destroy the environment by pumping out so much chemicals and depleting our natural resources to the point where there is no earth left to live on. All right. So one way of thinking about sustainability is that it's the roof of a house, right, or a structure, and there are beams that hold it up, big steel beams. Okay, we're going to call them pillars, and they are the pillars of sustainability. There is social, environmental, and economic. Okay, so people, the environment, and money. Okay, without one, the roof falls down. You need all three pillars to be considered and all three pillars to be able to go on and function for the roof to be held up. And the easiest way to think about this is to think of it in terms of examples. And you guys are going to map out an example for me later this week, but I'll give you a couple now. First one, we spent a lot of time this semester talking about the Australian bushfires that happened over the summer. Obviously, we also broke that down, and in your assignment, you had to mention, how the people affected. Some people lost their lives. Some people lost their homes. Some people had experienced mental health issues. How was the environment affected? Well, there were some negatives in terms of the pollution created by the fires. But there was also some positives in that seeds regenerate, plants and trees regenerate, and actually it's a practice that's been going on for thousands of years. It's a very natural practice that happens in our country. So there's two elements to the environmental. It's not always negative. What was the other one? Money. Huge amounts of money, billions of dollars were lost in terms of insurance for houses, in terms of infrastructure that's damaged from power lines to communication stations and whatever else. So when you think about those pillars, you can understand how those fires and any geographical event relates to sustainability. We'll do one more. Semi-hot topic at the moment. The reason why you're at home learning instead of at school. Maybe some of you are at school, but at the moment we're assuming that most of you are going to be home. I'm probably at school. That's me projecting into the future because I'm filming this in week 11 of last term. Okay, so the human element of COVID-19. On the left, we have a temporary medical facility, an intensive care unit set up in Italy because they can't handle the amount of people that are struggling from the virus and are in basically intensive care and need respirators and so forth. So, you know, the human element of how many people are getting sick, how many people are dying is huge. And there's also the human element of what we're doing in Australia, having to self-isolate, having to change our everyday life from the simple things like not being able to watch the footy to the more troubling things like not being able to see members of our family. You know, I mean, my children can't see their grandparents at the moment because by me coming here and potentially passing on the virus to my children, who would probably be okay, we don't want to risk them giving that to mine or my wife's parents who are in that really vulnerable age bracket. And so the human element of this is huge. One last thing, think about, like on the other side of this image here, the medical workers. I mean, I'm a teacher and I have to come to school, but I'm in a relatively safe environment. These people have direct contact with COVID-19 patients. You know, they're just doing amazing work, and it's huge humanitarian. They should be given medals like people that go to war at the end of this, because that's what they're doing. They're at war. They're putting themselves in the line of fire for the benefit of the world and their own country. So that's the human element. This one's a little bit human, but a little bit economic. It's got to do with money and people. People lose jobs. That's not good for them. All right. But it's also about the whole money. We shut down all of these businesses and all of a sudden, you know, millions of people are out of work. People that relied on, you know, working in a cafe or working in a restaurant or running a store or being a masseuse or whatever they were doing that they're now not allowed to do, personal trainers, gyms, etc., are now lining up at Centrelink trying to get their cash. Right? And what that has resulted in is government have had to pump money out of their huge, well, they've probably borrowed some of the money, and they've also had a lot stashed away from all the tax they take off of your average working Australians. And they've had to pump money into various areas to try and stimulate the economy, give people money to spend so they can put that into things, but also so that they can live and buy basic things like food and you know, basic household items. So that's the money element. So what about the environment in regards to COVID-19? What are your predictions about how this is impacting on the environment? Well, one thing that's come out is that in China, and you can see here in this image, the nitrous oxide density, right, which is outlined down here and is shown in this map here, has reduced drastically from January to February in the time that everyone was forced to stop driving cars, stop flying around in planes, and other things that produce carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide, which this is a huge benefit. And they're actually seeing blue skies for the first time in years across parts of China, very busy cities like Beijing and Langzhou. And I've actually put a link there if you want to look into that a little bit further. It's just fascinating that some people are saying that this virus is like the environment cleansing itself, which is an interesting point, but certainly not going to weigh in on that one. Right, so the environment's actually benefiting in regards to COVID-19. But essentially, people, money, and the environment need to find a way to coexist without wiping the other one out. This is so difficult when we are so reliant on things that are not good for the environment. Can you think of an example of what that might be? And finally, some sustainability issues or challenges facing sustainability. There are many. We're going to investigate some as a class over the next week or so, and then some you're going to go into yourself in a self-driven investigation. Things like population growth, which is now being reduced by the deaths to do with coronavirus. The impact of plastics on the environment. Climate change, which is the whole big issue of the climate temperatures rising because of the damage to the ozone layer. Fast fashion and furniture, which is a part of overconsumption. I bet people aren't over-consuming at the moment while they don't have anywhere to go and wear all their fancy clothes. Reef degradation, which is a part of the pollution that destroys the reef, and you can see a surfer there with all the waste coming through the wave. Animal agriculture, which I've mentioned, and veganism, which is a result of trying to combat that issue. Overfishing, which is basically what most fishing is, which is taking huge nets and taking all the fish out of the ocean. Habitat loss, which is what happens to animals when you destroy huge amounts of land that they live on. And then there's the world's water crisis, which is a whole other factor and an issue that is hitting hard in certain countries where they are literally about to run out of running water any time. So it's a really exciting topic. I'm looking forward to investigating it more with you guys, even though we're going to be doing this remotely. You'll have to watch a few of these videos here and there, and you'll have to do most of your work in your folio, follow the instructions. But thanks for your time.